Hello students, welcome to Btech360. One of the surest ways for any student and any parent to understand the importance of BTech and the demand that the BTech degree would have as you move forward is by following the forecast made by the big ITES majors, which is the Infosys, the TCS, the Wipro, the Accenture, the Cognizant, the HCL and so on and so forth. The thousands of such companies, but the large companies is what I'm talking about. Because when these people give a forecast, they also give a forecast of the kind of recruitment that they will have, the kind of campus hiring that they will have, and also they please carefully look at the headcount that these companies have. Are they growing? Are they falling? Are they retaining? Has the attrition in these companies fallen? All these things give you an indication of how the job market would be for a BTech graduate. And why do we say that? Because most of these ITS companies all put together hire about 40 to 50% of the BTech graduates that come out of our education system. We have close to about 5,000 plus colleges which are offering BTech at this point in time. All put together, there will be about 2.2 million students who actually are getting into the BTech stream every single year. In fact, if you just look at JEE, it's about 1.5 million students take that examination JEE. Then you add every other number, you will actually have about 2.5 million students taking the examination to get into one of the BTech colleges, and about 2 million, close to 2 million students possibly getting into the BTech course also. But still, one of the important things that you must know is what is the kind of job prospect. And it is all the more important at this point in time because we're living in a world where AI is really disrupting the world in terms, especially for the job market, for the IT and ITES companies. And to that extent, most of the people who are trying to do CS and anything to do with CS are likely to be impacted. And from that perspective, I and we at Career 360 have been very, very carefully following all the forecasts made by the big ITES majors, which is the TCS, Wipro, and Infosys and all those companies. Last week, two results came out. One is for TCS and the other one is for Wipro. And both these institutions, both these companies gave an inkling of what is likely to happen as you move forward as far as job recruitment is concerned for IT BTech graduates. Let me read out to you some data that is coming up, and that's for you should be a warning signal of what you must be doing. And before I move further, please subscribe to Btech360. It's very important for us to know that you're actually following us and we're able to help you out. Now, as I told you, about 2 million students get into the BTech colleges, and about ITES companies, which is IT enabled services, or what you call them, recruit about 40% of these people across the board. Now, since 2023, what the data shows is that the recruitment by these companies has been plateauing or has come down, has become stagnant, which means they're not even growing. The headcount in these companies is not growing. At the most, what they recruit is to replace the existing headcount, but not otherwise. Earlier days, it used to grow dramatically. Year on year, there will be about 7, 8, 10% growth in number of people that they're employing. So the total headcount, which is 5 lakh, will become 5.5 lakh and 6 lakh and all. But since 2023, this headcount has become stagnant. For example, if you take Wipro, in Wipro, the peak was in 2023 where it was 2.57 lakh, exactly 2,56,921. And this is data that I'm talking to you from the annual report of Wipro. There is no other number, it is from the annual report of Wipro. It was 2,56,921. In 2026, when the results came out last week, the number was 2,33,000. So what we saw in the last 3 years is a drop of about 23,000 people in terms of the total headcount that Wipro employed in their company. Now, that is a stark number because what we're talking about is about close to a 9% drop in the headcount itself. Now, TCS also came out with the result last week. TCS in 2023, the peak number was 6,14,795 was the total headcount of TCS at that point in time. In financial year 2026, it ended up with 5,84,519. In fact, in just 1 year, TCS headcount fell by 23,460. That's a massive number because what we're talking about a 4% drop in the headcount of TCS. So you saw Wipro from 23 onwards, it fell about 9%. Now we're talking of TCS, where the drop is about close to about from 614 to 584. You're dealing with about 30,000 kind of a drop. And in just last 1 year, between 25 and 26, they saw a drop of 23,460, which is about 4%. Now those are very stark numbers if you look at it. 4% drop. Mind you, earlier years it was always growing by about 5-7%. So every year it would be what is 2 lakh will become 2 lakh 5,000 and 2 lakh 15,000 and so on and so forth. Now we are seeing a reversal of the trend where the number of people that these companies are employing, overall headcount is dropping. Now, why is it happening? There is obviously, there is a peak in 2023 as I told you because earlier it was growing and now it started falling. And the expansion phase also is in question mark because AI is eating away some of the jobs. What AI is making life more efficient for many of the companies that ITS companies are hired for, and to that extent you will actually see a problem. The first thing that's happened is And this is obviously the industry context is what I'm giving you. The attrition was earlier about 25% in these companies, which means people who are working in these companies were able to find better jobs or other jobs, so they would move out of these companies, and because of which there is higher recruitment also. And then obviously the headcount was growing because there was more demand for such people. So there was, the industry was expanding, there was more work, there were more companies that are coming to ITS companies to handle their IT operations. To that extent, there was more number of jobs that are being created, and the attrition was about 25%, which means these people had a demand outside of their companies also. That attrition across both these companies has fallen to about 13 to 15%, which means you actually saw a massive drop in the attrition rate by these companies. So to that extent, the new recruitment also is falling dramatically. So one, we actually have a stagnating, number of people headcount or a dropping headcount. On the other hand, you also see an attrition falling, which means the replacement that a fresher can hope to get into a Wipro or TCS or anything like that would also be struggling, because there is no more, the number of people who are leaving these companies are now leaving, and that becomes a challenge again. And Infosys also has seen a similar decline of the attrition rate. The other thing is the AI impact. As I told you, the AI impact is actually, ensuring that the work that is done by about 10 people is being done by far lesser number of people. So you actually saw a productivity gain or efficiency of about 20 to 30%. When you actually have an efficiency or greater efficiency or a productivity gain, to that extent, the number of people that they're going to employ also would come down to that extent. And by the way, this I've been noticing across all companies, that companies are now working on to ensure that you don't recruit more, you hold on to what you have, and assuming there is an attrition also, that you don't replace that attrition. And that's how over a period of time, naturally they'll ensure that the number of people who work in the companies comes down, and to that extent they become more cost efficient. There is no other option for the companies to survive unless they become efficient, otherwise they're going to die, because pricing margins also are under pressure at this point in time. So the productivity gains have eaten away about 20 to 30% gains, right? In the sense that the number of people would be employed lesser, even though the top line of these companies might grow. But the simple thing is this, that the productivity gains will ensure that the number of people who will be, so one, we talk of attrition falling, two, there is productivity gain, right? And all these things will ensure that there are fewer engineers per project. What would be about 10 engineers that were handling a project would now be about 8 or 7 or something like that. And the other thing is, all these things will lead to the entry roles being first hit, because people would not want to ask their own people to go. So what they will do is they'll not hire new set of people. That seems to be happening as well, right? And what is the student reality at this point in time? Every year, as I told you, about 2.5 million people are getting into BTech colleges. If I look at 26 itself, you will actually have 1.7, 1.8 million students graduating in 26. You are going to get into a BTech program now, which will graduate, and you will graduate in 2030. What are your chances of likely to getting a job in 2030? How will the world change? How will the world change? What are your prospects of ensuring that there is a job? Is there a danger for your whole thing? These are something that you must carefully watch. I'll be doing one more video very soon of how the CS, BTech CS is going to work out for you. And I'm going to refer to a lot of what's happening internationally, because you can actually understand from the international, path or international trends that you have to understand what we must be doing in India possibly. But very clearly, there seems to be a question mark in terms of the job creation that's likely to happen, which will employ all these 2 million people who are likely to come out in 2030. And that would always be a question mark, because at this point in time, the supply is far greater than demand. Even IITs and NITs and all, you'll see actually about 15, 20, 30% people not being placed. Even in IIMs, the same thing is going to happen. The top 10 to 20% people will always get a very good job, very good pay and those kind of things, because they're so skilled that they don't mind paying more money for a very skilled person. But they would not employ a person for the heck of it just because you want to add to the headcount. That's not going to happen. Companies will be more than happy to pay more money to a person who will work for, use technology to work for 3 people or remove 3 people headcount, but not other way around. So very clearly at this point in time, the jobs that you have, there is a lesser number of jobs, there are more number of people coming into the market for in a job, and the supply is far greater than demand. And if you're a very skilled person, you'll get more money. If you're normal, you're not likely to even get a job. So what is it that you must be looking for? The degree to a job thing is gone. You need to be very skilled, and please ensure that you also get into internship. It's an internship that will get you a job, because at internship you'll learn a lot, and hopefully that internship will be a PPO, which is a pre-placement offer, which means you'll get into a job at some point. But if you don't have an internship, you'll struggle to get a job. If you don't have a skill, you'll struggle to get a job. And the impact of an internship would be about 2 to 3 times more than if you don't have an internship for you to get into a job. The Wipro and TCS numbers are just a taste of what's likely to happen. We'll keep covering as Infosys and other companies also start declaring their results, because we want to carefully monitor how are the ITS companies dealing with this manpower count, how are the headcount increasing or decreasing, how are they dealing with recruitment. For example, TCS even now says they'll hire about 30,000-40,000 people. But Wipro says that they're likely to hire about 10,000 people only to replace and those kind of things. But even the hiring, which was about 20,000-25,000 earlier, has come down to 10,000. So students, the simple thing is this: you must be very careful. You must be extra cautious. You must work on internships. Join a college which gets you an internship also. Ensure that you're skilled enough as you move along. Your degree will not get you a job. Your skill will get you a job. Doesn't mean that you don't get into a degree and get a skill only. Ideally, you must have it. Get into a college which not just gives you a degree, but also ensure that you're skillful enough and also you're interning at some point in time so that you can get into a job. Otherwise, we are looking or staring into a dark alley. Don't get into college just because it's easy for you to get a degree. Get into college because you're going to learn something and earn a degree while also working as an intern. That is what will get you a job. This is a taste of what's likely to come. As I told you, we'll keep covering every ITS company, the big ITS major, as they keep declaring results. We'll keep coming back to you. This is something that's very important for parents and students to watch out for, because this is what will drive you into getting into a job or not getting into a job. Thank you so much. Namaste.